Hi, welcome to my video of how to make a ukulele play-along video using the PC as opposed to using an iPad. So I'm going to use a piece of software called Filmora by Wondershare, and there we go, I've just opened up a new project. So by using a combination of audio, graphics and then text, and that includes the chord charts, we are going to layer. So the first thing I'm going to add is a background graphic, which I found on Google. It's a jungle background to suit the I want to be like you. So I'm adding that into my project at the minute. And as you can see, once it's added, it appears in its own little timeline. So the background's actually a static object that will stay. As you can see, I've pulled it across, but the next thing I'm going to add is a layer of text. Now I've already saved these earlier. I've set them up very often. I will just use an old one and alter the chords and the words, but in this case, just to make life a little bit easier, so what I've done now is added a text box, and again you can see that it's gone in its own little timeline underneath where the background is, and it looks very fancy at the minute. I will explain a little bit more. Okay, so if we click on the advanced button, you'll see the frame window opens up all by itself, and each layer of text has its own layer underneath on its own little timeline. So suddenly now we're working in a much smaller scale, and if we press play, the whole of that frame will be animated. You can see the words appearing at the top, you can see the chord charts have appeared, and you can also see them disappearing. Okay, the chord charts are actually a font. I will explain a little bit more about that later, but by just clicking a letter, you can see that the chord chart changes. I'm not having to put in any other graphics, it is actually a font. So now we've got our own little introduction with our text going on top of our background, and you can see it all looks nice and simple at the minute. But our next job is to add some audio, which I have already adjusted in a piece of software called Mixcraft, something I've used for years and years in work. So I'm now looking for my I Want to Be Like You audio file, which I always save as an MP3. I can then add that to the project. There we go. And then it's just a case of adding it again to its own little timeline underneath. There we go. You can see that the audio has appeared. I'm just going to move it around a little bit, and if I press play, hopefully you're going to hear it in a moment. So this is the start of the audio being added. It's about to kick in. There we go. Okay, so you can hear the audio, but obviously we've run out of text at the moment, so it's just the blank screen showing. Now at this point, sometimes I would just copy and paste the intro, but because I was making the video, I thought I would set it up a little bit more just to make life easier. So now I'm going to add my next text box. There you go. You can see that that's now appeared on the same timeline as our intro. And again, I can open it up. There's our jungle book. That's left over from the intro. Our chord charts are still left over from the intro. I've got rid of a lot of the other things. And it's just a case of tweaking the whole frame then, just to make sure that the Jungle Book text and the chord charts, everything fills the whole frame. So now we've got our different layers and frames starting to appear. There is a little bit of sorting out to start with. If you look now, we're pressing play from the very beginning. There's our introduction, our audio will kick in. There'll be a little gap at the moment. There we are, there's our gap. And our next frame should appear shortly. Again, no, there'll be a lot of tweaking, there'll be a lot of rearranging. I'll go back and forth over this bit quite a lot. So with this song, you can see there is actually quite a long introduction. What I'm going to do, there we are, I'm just moving things around a little bit. Again, it'll take me a little while to get this bit sorted out, just to have the timing and everything correct. There we are, the audio has just kicked in now. You do this a lot, listening, going back, listening, going back. So now we've got our introduction and then our first proper frame, which will be the intro of the song. This is where I actually need to think about how many chord charts are going to be on each page, how the lyrics will sit. Obviously every song is different, so I will go and look at the different chord charts. Sometimes I might even use 2 or 3 different ways just to see how the lyrics sit, and then that gives me an idea then how I'm going to actually set the rest of the song up. So before we go on to the rest of the video, I'm just going to show you how I alter the audio. I use a piece of software called Mixcraft, which is a multi-track. It's very useful to alter the pitch sometimes to make it more suitable for the ukulele. So there we go, this is Mixcraft. I'll find the original song in the original pitch. Find a bit with the singing in it. Now I've already worked out I need to go up 2 semitones or 2 half steps in American language so that it fits. There we are, you can hear that's altered. You do have to be careful, you can't go too far up or too far down, otherwise you end up sounding like a chipmunk or somebody singing in a dungeon. So that's how I alter the pitch. I then export the file as an MP3, and in fact that was the file that I dropped into Wondershare a little bit earlier. I use Mixcraft, but there are many different types of software you can use to do this. I know other people use Audacity or Reason, GarageBand, I think you can do it as well. So there we go, here's the new version. All ready to go. So we're back with Filmora. I'm just going to move the audio a little bit closer to the start because there's such a long introduction with it. Right, this very first proper frame, that's what I call it anyway, I want to make sure it's at the right length. So I'm going to listen to it. There's the introduction just coming in. And I want to try and judge it as to when to stop. Roughly it's going to be about there, because I need to know when the next frame needs to start. So I'm hovering over my pause button, I'm listening. This is important we get this right. Just roughly about there. So I'm going to pull this frame to where I think it needs to be, and then we'll go back in and listen to it a bit more closely. This is important because if you get this bit wrong and then you go and make your frame and then you need to alter the length of it, it alters everything within it. So I'm just listening. It wasn't quite right then. I think that's about right. So now I can open up my frame to the advanced state, and again I'm listening to make sure the frame is the right length. There we go, so we've got the length of that frame correct. So now we can actually go in and start to set up this frame. This first frame is always the hardest one. So I've thought about what chords I need, and what I'm going to do now is open up this little brilliant app. It's called Chordette, and you'll find it on ukefarm.com, and this is the magic, this is the font. So I can choose what chord I like, and then it'll alter the actual chord chart and tell me what corresponding letter. So I'm not putting in any graphics, I'm just putting in the letter, and it alters it and makes it all beautiful. It really is a fantastic little app. If you write out ukulele songs, if you're a teacher, if you're a group leader, if you do anything with Word and you use PDFs, you can use this font for that as well. It isn't, oh, and PowerPoint. It isn't just useful for this bit of software. So what I've done now is I've set up the 3 chords for this first page. We've got our initial bit of text telling us it's going to be the intro. So as you can see, it's easy enough to move around. I'm just spacing things out. Again, once you get this first page sorted, things become easier. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is put the first graphic in, which tells us when to play our first chord. Just like the background, I can spend quite a while picking the right graphic. So what I tend to do is I go on Google, do a search for the type of image I'm looking for, and then put in PNG, ping file afterwards. And very often you can find a transparent version of the picture that you want. So in this case, I was looking for a King Louis or an orangutan that would be suitable. I did a search for that, and hey presto, I found this little monkey. So I need to put him roughly to the right size and hover him above the chord chart. There we go, you'll sit something like that. Again, though, these can be altered as you go, and I do tend to fuss a little bit too much sometimes. So there we are, we've got our monkey graphic in place, and we know roughly when he's going to appear. So it's back to timing and listening now. So we'll just move him across. We think that's about right, but we've got to listen. Yeah, he's just a fraction early at the minute. So I'm just going to pull the graphic back a tiny bit. Listen again. No monkey, no monkey. Just at the right time. So just a little bit more sorting out. I'm just making sure that the other graphics, the chord charts and the font, the text at the top stretches for the whole of the frame, and then I'm just going to do a last little check then. So this is the main timeline playing now. Lovely. So we've got our one monkey graphic done. I'm just going to show you what I have to do to make more appear. I wish it was as simple as copy and paste. Unfortunately, it's not. There is a little bit of fiddling to do with resizing of graphics. So I've had to open up another graphic of my monkey, and then I'm just resizing him. And once I'm happy that he's the same size as his previous graphic, I put him in the correct position, move him across, and I'll show you in a minute how we get all the different ones to appear. Okay, so I've spent a few minutes finishing off this first frame. I've added the extra monkeys. As you can see, they've appeared on the timeline at the bottom. I've added the next chord chart, which shall appear on each page. I've also, I don't know if you've noticed, changed the colour and the font. I do this quite a lot. So now we need to sort out the timings of the other monkeys. The first one appears at the correct time. And just like before, we're listening for the chord change, which is just there. So now I'm going to alter this monkey's timeline so he appears at the correct point. Again, go back and listen. This is where it's useful using the advanced frame because you're working on a small bit. There's the first one appear. And the second one appear. And we're just timing it for the third one. Roughly about there. Again, drag his timeline down. Go back and listen again. it does seem a faff to sort this first frame out, but it's worth doing it properly. Just a little bit early, so pull it back one and again go back and listen. And in fact it's still just a touch early, and this is important because ultimately the whole point of these play along videos is to show when the chord changes. So if it is wrong, it's not going to help the player. So that's done. Now we go back to the main timeline. There's our very first introduction frame. You can see I've already altered the colour of the font and the actual font, which matches. And then we just got a little bit more tidying up to do. So we're just going to make sure that the monkeys don't overlap each other. So we pull back each one's timeline so that we get rid of any little overlaps. And I'm just sorting out the little fades for the transitions in and out of each frame as well. And now you can see no monkeys appear until the chords come in. There's our second monkey appearing, and the last one. So the last little job is just to put a little fade out on that third monkey, just for the whole page transition. What I also want to do though is, because the introduction is quite long, I just want to make sure the player is ready. So I've clicked on the intro, which means the next bit of text I add will be the same as the intro. And I've just added in get ready. I'm just altering it. There we go, that's nice on the page. And then it's just a case of sorting out the timing for that. Obviously I don't want get ready to appear too early. So I'm having a listen, roughly pull it back to that point and it'll appear on the screen at that point, just giving the player a little warning. So just while I'm sorting out this bit of text, I've never used a video editor before. I started messing about with Filmora on the free trial and thought, yeah, I can do that. I'm just having a quick listen to this a minute. Yeah, I could probably do a bit more of a warning with that. But yeah, once you start playing with it, it's quite simple. I haven't read the instructions. Hang on, again, we're just having a quick listen. Oh, that's better. And I don't tend to read instructions like most people unless I need to. Just have a go of it and don't be frightened. Okay, so that's the first proper frame done. What I'm going to do now, I'm just resizing the whole project for a minute, is because I want to have a quick play through the very beginning on the proper timeline. So there's our introduction. The audio's just started. And we're into our next proper frame now. There's our intro. Our get ready's appeared. And our monkeys are on the go.
Now I'm the king of the...
Lovely. Happy with that? Okay, so that's the first frame done. That's really is the hard bit done now. Always save your work, please. I've shouted so much when I've lost work. Save it regularly. So we're going to do a little bit of a copy and paste job now. I've selected our frame, copied it, and I'm going to paste it back in. There you go. You can see it's appeared on the timeline straight after. And the next job we've got to do is to alter the text. So I've gone back, I've double checked my chords are the correct ones, and then I'm just going to copy and paste the text. Always double check as well that the words are correct and the spellings are correct. And then we'll just copy and paste that into where we had our intro text. Just need to alter the size a little bit so that it all fits on the screen and is readable. I do try and keep it quite large because often if it's up on a projector, you need to be able to read it nice and clearly. There you are, it's just about in the right place now. So now we've got our new lyrics in place. We're just going to move that whole frame into position, and then we're back to listening to it and timing it, because obviously the first frame we did had the introduction. This frame is probably going to be shorter, so we need to listen to it to get the right timing again.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP.
So I'm just hovering, waiting, ready to pause it. There we go. That's the right time to stop it, and then we'll pull that frame back in to make the frame itself shorter to hopefully fit that little bit of music. So again, we're back to listening and trying to get it to stop in the right place. Technology is wonderful, but at the end of the day, this really is down to listening to it and getting it spot on.
I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP.
Listening for the chord changes. Personally, I listen to the bass, but whatever you find easiest. So hopefully that's correct now, so I can open it up into the advanced frame and double check it. As I've got the advanced frame open, I'm just tidying up the little fades, making sure everything's in the right place. There you go, you can see the complete timeline there. Now obviously because we pasted this frame in, all the graphics are in the wrong place timing wise. So we just have to go through it again now and just reposition the monkeys so that they appear, there we are, at the right chord change. So that just needs to come forward a fraction. I spend my life with headphones listening. There we go. That's right. And then it's just the last graphic to add to the right place. Roughly there. So that's the 3 graphics in the correct place. Play through it just to do a double check. And as you can see at the moment though, there are gaps, so all I'm just going to do to finish off this little bit is to extend each graphic to reach the other one. There's the difference now. The monkeys appear and then disappear when the next one appears. So obviously I'm going to save it again. Always save regularly. I go back to my main timeline, go a bit further back towards the beginning and check again. But at this point I probably for the first time would actually get my ukulele and play through it just to make sure the chords are right, the timing is right and everything is good to go. So it all seems okay, I'm playing along, the lyrics are working, the chords are changing at the correct pace, so I'm all happy with that. And that's our first copy and paste, and that's basically what we will do then for the rest of the song, is we will copy a frame and paste it in, and eventually you will have bits of verses and choruses and you'll be able to do it much faster. Okay, so as you can see, we've suddenly got a few more frames. I've done a bit more copying and pasting, and as I click on them, you can actually see in the preview window what appears on each frame. And as we go through the song, you can see certain frames have actually got more chord charts on them. In fact, we're up to about 5 chord charts there and 6 for that last one. So again, I'm going back to the main timeline and I'm going to play through everything I've done so far. Again, I'll do it with the ukulele just because it's a little bit more fun. So as you can see at the bottom now, the cursor is moving along, and as it moves along it shows over each frame. As I've done each frame, I've just followed the same process that we did at the beginning. I've added the chord charts, I've changed the lyric text, and in the case where more chord charts have had to be added, I've just done exactly the same process. Used my chordette and then added another monkey. So we're just coming to the end of the first chorus, and I want the player to stop before we go into the next verse, so I've just added a little extra stop sign there. So now we can copy not just any frame, we can actually copy hopefully the same frame, which will make it all a little bit quicker. So we're doing the second verse now. So I've copied the first half of the first verse in, I've placed it down. I'm now going to go and just change the lyrics. So we open up our advanced frame, we go back to where we've got our lyrics opened up, we can copy the first half of the second verse, so that text, copy it from there, put it back onto our Filmora, and there we go. Using our advanced frame we can then just change the lyrics. So there we are, that's our new lyrics up. We'll go back and check it all out on the main time. So I'm just moving everything back into where they should sit, and it's just a case of playing and seeing how well they fit. Some songs fit really well easily, some you've got to go and alter every single frame. That one looks pretty good at the minute. So I'll go and copy and paste the rest of the frames. So after a few hours work, we've now got the song complete. All the frames are now in the correct place. If I click on the very first one, you can see that's our introduction, and we can click. Hopefully now you've seen how the program works. You can see how the frames work a little bit better, with some things coming in earlier, some things finishing early, fading in, fading out. So as you can see, if we click on a different frame, the chords change, the lyrics change. There's a different part of the song again. Open up the advanced frame, and again remember you're working in small sections. So if there is a mistake, you go and find that frame, open that frame up like we've just done here, and then you can alter it. Now it's a nice timeline that you can see. So with the main part of the song complete now, is just a few little finishing off things. So I'm trying to get the endings a little bit neater. So at the moment it just stops dead. So I'm going to put in a little transition. So I'm just going to select the background. I'm going to my transitions now, and I like using a little diamond inward at the end. So I just add that, and now when I press play, there you are, you can see it just finishes quite nicely. So now we've got our end transition, we're going to save it. Then I tend to save it as a different file name at this point. I like to put complete as opposed to working on. It just makes life a little bit easier if I have to go back and something's corrupted in a file. I've got an earlier one to work from. So I'll just point out we're still saving it as a project at the minute. Even though we keep saving it, we're not saving the video. What we need to do now is export it as a video file. I like MP4s. I tend to export it as MP4s. It works on all the different formats for me. You can see from this page though, you can actually upload it directly to YouTube at this point. I don't like doing that. I want to save it back onto my hard drive first, because A, I've got a copy of it, and B, I want to add a little intro. So I'm just checking where it's going to. I click export, and then I need to sit and wait for the Filmora to do its magic. So the video is rendering down. Once that is complete, I can click on my Find Target and it'll open up my folder where my videos are saved to. So there we go, there are my videos. Open up in my media browser the video, and again grab a ukulele and play through it. This is where the fun starts. So I'm playing through it, but I'm also watching through it a couple of times, because this is where you need to pick up any mistakes. Make sure all the chords are right, the necks are right, and the lyrics are right. So just before I upload the video to YouTube, I'm just going to add a little intro video for my Ukulaliens channel. I do this for a couple of reasons. First of all, it helps people remember Ukulaliens, but actually it's because of the adverts, because of the copyright. It really annoys me when you've picked a ukulele up, you've got to start playing, an advert pops up and you have to stop to get rid of the advert. So I do put a little introduction in just to help me with the timing, so that by the time the video starts to play, the advert has already gone. So I've started a new Filmora project, and this really is a simple process. I've added the new video, the complete video. I've put that into Filmora. There we go, that all works perfectly. And I've already made a little intro video for our Ukulaliens channel. So I'm going to add that, and that actually appears on the timeline, there we go, just before our new video. So as you can see, we've got the two videos on our timeline. I just want to add a little transition in between them. There you can see they just go from one straight into another. So I'm just going to add a little transition so that when they merge, it's a little bit nicer. So I've just altered the timing of that. I've done it a few times before, so that's easy enough. And then right at the very end of the video, just so that it just doesn't go black, I like to make sure people are still awake, and I pop in a little ukulelean graphic that sort of pops up right at the very end. And again, I'm just going to add a little transition between the two, I say video and then final image. So there's a little boom. Lovely.
Someone like me.
Boom. See if you're still awake at the end. And then back to the beginning just to check everything is working with the intro and the main video. There we are, all working. So with everything done with that now, it's just a case of exporting this video. This is the actual video that will appear on YouTube. I just get rid of my complete and I export. That will then save it again as an MP4, which I will then upload to YouTube. There we go. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I've enjoyed making it. It's my first one, so I've learned something new as well. I'm no expert on Filmora. I really am not. I've just had a go of it and learnt a few things. Enjoy!